If you want to be able to overcome heartbreak, this is what you have to do. What is up, my dear friends? My name is Tyler Stratton. I am your heartbreak coach, and I am so grateful that you've decided to join me here at the Happy Heart Academy podcast today as we continue to walk toward our happiness rather than our heartbreak. And in today's episode, I'm going to be spending some time on a topic that I hold near and dear to myself, that I find it was probably the most one of the best things that catapulted me toward my happiness after my heartbreak. Something that empowered me and equipped me to be able to stand alone and reclaim my personal power so that I could step more toward my happiness and purpose and passion and healing rather than my hurt, pain, and suffering. So I want you to tune in, grab a notebook, grab a pen and paper, and take some notes, because I don't want you to miss out on these 7 different ideas on how we can begin to walk back toward happiness after heartbreak. And today's topic that we're going to be diving into is a topic about how to practice real self-care. Not the BS type, and it has nothing to do with facials or spa days or anything like that, but we're going to be diving into things that I think really helped me and many others move toward happiness, reclaim their personal power, so that they felt more joyful, more alive, and less numb. You know, during our heartbreak, a lot of the things that, one of the emotions I think that we go through is this emotion of like numbness. I do think numbness, feeling numb, is an emotion. It's an emotion that doesn't allow us to feel. We try to cancel out everything, and feeling numb, we lose vitality and aliveness toward life when we try to push away a certain feeling. When we numb ourselves, all we're trying to do is not feeling the emotion, the pain that came with our heartbreak. Now, one of the things that I talk about over at the Happy Heart Academy community is how you have to feel it in order to heal it. So if you are somebody who's currently feels numb, like you don't have vitality, joy, aliveness in your life right now because of your heartbreak, one of the greatest tips I can give you is you've got to learn the lesson to feel it to heal it. And we can talk about that in another podcast episode, but what I need you to understand is the way to actually heal your pain and begin to feel more joyful, more alive, more happier, is if you actually begin to feel and process your emotions. Pushing them away and numbing them does not do anything. Actually, it alivens the emotion that you're trying to run away from. It amplifies it, because you're always trying to numb it and push it away, and it's always there, so you're always dealing with it, whether you believe so or not. So today we're going to be talking about 7 different ideas that I believe can truly help you improve your journey back to happiness and overcome your heartbreak. So the first big idea that I want to share with you that I believe significantly improved the quality of life that I lived after my initial heartbreak almost 8 years ago now is you have to improve your mental diet. This is where I started. Actually, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that this would help me. I wasn't trying to, quote unquote, improve my mental diet so that I could begin to feel better. It was just something that helped me feel better. And after I looked back, I was like, I'm starting to think better. I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to talk nicer to myself. I'm starting to have more hope in my life. And it's all because I started to improve my mental diet. So what do I mean when I talk about this improving of a mental diet? Like, how do you do it? Well, everything changes when you realize your diet isn't just what you eat. And I realized that when I started to read self-help books, personal development books, and I started to understand that the diet is not just what you eat. It's what you also watch. It's also what you read. It's also who you follow and who you spend your time with. If your goal is ideally to create happiness after heartbreak so that you can feel empowered and purposeful and fully alive, then you need to start removing the junk from your diet. And without intentionally trying to do so, I just started to naturally do so. I remember back in 2013, 2014, around then, I opened up my first personal development book. And my first personal development book was a book that it kind of scared me at the time because I always hated to read. I wasn't a reader. I was illiterate. I hated reading in front of my high school class. I always was in tutoring, and I wasn't really a perfect student, so to say. It always came with tutoring, so I wasn't really confident in reading, and I always hated reading and the idea of reading, and I didn't see the importance of reading. But it wasn't until I was at my lowest point and I was looking for anything. I was trying to grasp onto anything. And one of the things that my brother recommended to me was, hey, bud, he kind of got into personal development at the time a little bit before me. He was my older brother, so he usually did things before I did, but if he liked those things, then he would recommend them to me. So he knew I wasn't a big reader, but then what he did was he came into my room one morning after I was meditating, and he's like, bud, I got this book, and it's by Napoleon Hill. I know you don't know him, but ideally he's one of these profound, successful authors who talk about personal success. And I would like you to start reading it with me. So when he bought that book, he would read it in the morning, and then I would read it in the afternoon, and we would stay with each other. It's over a 300-page book, and it was called The Law of Success, The 15 Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill. It's a massive book. Well, in 2 weeks, I finished this massive book. It was probably the first book I've read actually from start to finish without skipping over anything. And this is when my life began to change, because my thoughts began to change. The way I was thinking about life began to change because of the ideas that Napoleon Hill spoke into my life. And one thing about reading that I love so much now is that when I read, I'm reading it in my own voice. I hear my own voice, and I'm actually speaking the words that are written. So these words are better for me because they're more positive words that can help me heal. So when I ask myself, what are the couple things that I did to help improve myself, to feel better about myself? One of the things I did was improve my mental diet. I started to watch successful YouTube videos of people who overcame hardship. I learned about how to basically become happier toward myself and more kind toward myself. I read different books. I watched different programs. And I started following people that inspired me to live a better quality life, like Brennan Burchard, like Lewis Howes, like Wayne Dyer. I started following these individuals on the podcasting app, and I equipped myself with listening to them every single day, hours on end. That's what I started with. That's where my journey began. That's how I started to heal. That's how I started to find my passion, my purpose, and my momentum to help me overcome my heartbreak. And the second thing that I did after I started to work on improving my mental diet, I am a people pleaser, 100%, and I've been working on that for a very long time. I hate conflict. I hate dealing with problems. I don't like being a problem. I don't like hearing people argue. I don't like hearing people fight or scream or have conflict. And this basically, when you don't like those types of things, what you like to do is you like to people please. You like to make people happy. You enjoy not being the problem, but offering the solution. And that's who I became because I grew up in a household that was always fighting, screaming, loud, obnoxious, like just always just back and forth. And I hated that type of environment. So I knew I didn't want to create that type of environment. But in order to not create that type of environment, I had to do something that I didn't want to do, but I knew became important to do, which was you have to learn how to let people down. Your happiness is more important than your career, money, other people's opinion, that event you said you'd attend, your partner's mood, and your family's wishes combined. Your happiness is more important than everything, I believe. That's my belief, because if you're not happy, your life's not going to be happy, and you're not going to make other people happy. If taking care of yourself means letting some people down, then let someone down. Let some people down so that you can invest that time into yourself and pick yourself back up. You see, anytime I said no to anybody, I kind of felt guilty. I'm like, oh, I know, like, I grew up Christian, and I'm like, oh, doing the right thing is to help other people, put other people before yourself. And but I did that, and I exhausted myself, and I didn't have any more resources to give because nobody was giving back. Like I gave so much and I wasn't getting anything back, and I was waiting for somebody to give it something back, and nobody would give anything to me, but I was giving it all away. I was always helping people, but I hit a point where I had nothing else to give. I hit a point where I was like, I'm frustrated with helping people. I don't like helping people. I can't even help myself, let alone try to help somebody else. So what I learned to do was let people down. I started to say no, and I stood up for myself. This helped me to walk toward happiness because I stood up for myself, and I started to develop a confident backbone that allowed me to take care of myself, because at the end of the day, letting someone down so that you can invest that time back into yourself and pick yourself back up is a positive thing. So that's exactly what I did. When I started to quote unquote let people down, I started to spend that time when I was supposed to maybe help somebody else, I started to help myself. I went back to improving my mental diet. I started to listen to the podcasts and watch different YouTube videos and go to different seminars and read different books. And I started to improve myself. Improvement, growth is happiness, it's vitality, it's aliveness. So I learned to say no a little bit more and say yes to myself. But anytime I said no to somebody, I made sure that what I would have done in that time frame, I invested into myself. This is very important. So I ask that you just spend some time investing it into yourself. Like, make yourself be intentional and spend time with yourself, quality time, whether it's meditating, journaling, reading, writing, being creative, thinking of yourself, just relaxing, even like laying in bed without a phone, without a TV on, just put on some incense, put on some candles, and just relax. Like, allow yourself to tune into your body, to your heart, to your essence, and feel your aliveness inside of you. You haven't stopped and smelled the roses, and learning to let people down will free up some space in your calendar and in your day to be able to spend time with you. And if you spend time with you in the right manner without watching Netflix and everything else that can be distracting, but you spend genuine time with you, you're going to build a better relationship with yourself. Because how do you build a relationship with anybody? You spend quality time with them. You pay attention to them. You know what makes them happy. You know what makes them sad. You know about them, right? Like, you start, and you might not know yourself. Even though you've been with yourself, that doesn't mean you know yourself. You don't know what makes you happy. So what makes you happy? You have to spend time with yourself to learn those things. And which leads me to like step number 3, or an idea number 3. These are really not steps, but the first one was improve your mental diet. There's multiple ways you can do that. I listed some. Learn to let people down. Say no to say yes to yourself more. And 3, set clear boundaries and protect them. Excuse me. Set clear boundaries and protect them. I think this is probably one of the most extravagant things that I learned when I was going through a heartbreak. Was I started to understand and study boundaries. What were they? What do they mean? And I realized when I started to have boundaries and understand what my boundaries were and no longer cross them no matter what, or didn't allow other people to cross them, I felt a lot more at peace. You know, when you don't lose real friends, real lovers, real opportunities, or real relationships when you start standing up for yourself and setting clear boundaries. You lose abusers. You lose manipulators, narcissists, attention seekers, and mental health destroying leeches. Hear me out. Anything you lose when you stand up for yourself is something else gained. I stopped seeing boundaries as a bad thing. I allowed myself to see boundaries as a healthy thing, something that could help me create more space for myself, a set of direction that I wasn't being tugged in multiple different areas of my life. I started saying no more, and I started saying yes to the things that I knew that would create happiness in return. So number 4 is all about making replacements. I think this is a vital key. This is vital when it comes to building a better relationship with yourself, and I think it also inclines to the idea that this is self-care 101, and it's just making replacements, and it's replacing this with that. I talk a lot about this at the Happy Heart Academy community, so be sure to go check that out. That's community.happyheartacademy.com. You can find free resources there, but I talk about this versus that. So ideally, when it comes to taking care of yourself, you need to make time for yourself. Is one of the most important things that you can honestly do is sometimes people don't schedule themselves in their own calendar, but they schedule everybody else. And sometimes, yeah, you might go work out and think that's going to help you take care of yourself. But sometimes I think, especially here in America, people need to just slow the heck down. People need to take time for themselves and just slow down and find peace and release stress and anxiety. And the way you release stress and anxiety and actually take care of yourself is to do what I said. Light a candle, no TV, no phone, replacing good things with not so good things. So for example, to give you a few things that you can begin to replace so that you can actually start to move toward your happiness and start to take better care of yourself, because it will create space for yourself that's going to help you improve yourself. Is real self-care requires replacements, and some of these replacements are: replace Netflix marathons with more sleep and rest, genuine rest, like no cell phone in bed rest, like no TV on in bed rest. Replace fake influencers with inspiring creators in your life, people that are actually doing something with their life, creating a better life, creating a happier life, because a lot of your happiness and your choice to move on is a choice. Like if you actually want to move on, the reason why most people can't move on from a heartbreak is because they choose not to move on. They choose to stay stuck in a story that's keeping them trapped from being able to step toward happiness and stay stuck in heartbreak. Now, replace toxic friends with mentors. Like, that's exactly what I did. I stopped hanging around friends from high school and stopped hanging around so-called friends from college, and I started to invest into mentors, people that could coach me and inspire me. Like, I'm part of the Growth Day community for the Brendan Burchard. I'm part of the Lewis House community, and these are around inspiring creators and inspiring mentors that are changing things in their life and in other people's lives, and I wanted to be around that. I want to be a difference maker. And the way you become a difference maker in not only your own life, but in other people's life, is by getting around those types of people that inspire you to become one. Another thing that you can replace is to replace complaining and gossip with gratitude and appreciation. It is surprising when you become aware of this, how many people gossip in conversation. Like, you can go through Walmart, you can go through Target, you can go, if you just tune into some people's conversations, most of them are talking about gossip, problems, and pain. Nobody is talking about their successes, what they're grateful for, like how great their family is. Like, they're not trying to come up with new ideas. They're just complaining about the news, the weather, their weight, their job, they're always gossiping and complaining. I challenge you to replace the complaining and gossip of the heartbreak, like complaining about your ex, like gossiping about your ex, with gratitude and appreciation. When you trade expectation for appreciation, you'll be moving more toward happiness rather than heartbreak, and this is a game changer. Just try to become more aware of your complaining thoughts and your complaining gossip, and don't speak badly about anybody, because when you speak badly about somebody else, it ultimately is speaking badly about yourself. And this, in reflection, affects you more than you believe. You need to read about it if you don't understand exactly what I'm talking about, but believe me, your words and what you speak on others is an exact reflection of what you speak about yourself. Another thing that you can replace is blame with responsibility. Responsibility is your ability to respond to situations. And when we go through a heartbreak, our ability to respond to a situation can either make us or break us. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people respond to a heartbreak as a devastating, life-changing, altering moment, and they stay stuck. They don't move, they don't love, they don't progress, they don't care, they lose themselves, they lost their partner, they lost their purpose, they lost their passion, they don't feel life, they feel numb. Their ability to respond to a devastating issue, whether it be a heartbreak, a relationship loss, whatever it may have been, often people respond to that in a manner that doesn't serve them, because they don't have a why. Like, their why in life is very unclear. When you have an unclear why in life, you don't know why you should overcome this. You just feel like you should stay in this pain center of feeling just like death. Okay, to sum it up. So replace your blame, like quit pointing your finger and take responsibility for your life, for the way you think, for the way that you feel, for what happened to you. Because when you start to place the blame on somebody else, that is the moment you lose power and personal power, and lose all your ability to actually move toward hope and happiness. Because when you blame somebody else, you can't change that somebody else. And you try to, you manipulate, you try to get on Instagram and you post things that you hope your ex will see, and then you try to, maybe date someone new, or send pictures, or go out to drink, or whatever you do to try to manipulate your ex to kind of make them to see how much they hurt you. When you do this, you're only hurting yourself, and you're only drinking your own poison that you're trying to have your ex to drink. So this is not a good idea. Just replace blame with responsibility. And lastly, replace overthinking with action. A lot of the times, the reason why we don't move on toward happiness is because we overthink. Our mind gets in the way of our heart. Our heart knows what we should do. Tune into that heart center, and you'll know which step to take. You know whether or not you should be with your ex-partner. Don't get back into a relationship with your ex just because you're lonely. Don't get back into a relationship with your ex just because you miss them. Don't get back into a relationship with your ex because you feel not whole anymore. These are terrible reasons why you should get into a relationship, and it's going to end up in a broken relationship anyway. When you enter a relationship broken, it's not your relationship isn't the purpose of your relationship is not to heal you. Although it can help heal you, it's not the purpose of the relationship. Ideally, you go into a relationship to give, not to take, if you want a successful relationship. And number 5 is stop chasing motivation or the next best thing. We need you to stay on track. I need you to stay on track toward one goal only, especially during this time of your heartbreak. And you need to focus on what makes you happy. You know, a lot of times when I spend time coaching people, I ask them, well, what makes you happy? And I'm not surprised, but I am astonished by how many people don't know the answer to that question. They don't know what makes them happy. They don't know what fulfills them. They don't know what makes them joyful. And the things that they thought that made them joyful left them. It's like, well, my ex did. She was my only person. Or my ex did. He was the only person. Like, whatever we did, it just made me happy because I was with somebody. Like, why does happiness equal our ex or our relationship? Like, your idea of happiness equals your ex. And so if you don't have your ex, you don't have happiness. This is a false reality to live in, and it's only going to damage you. You need to change that, because happiness is wherever you decide to be. You can generate happiness at any time. Your happiness is not found within something. It's found within somebody else. It's found within yourself. It's not found within a new car or a new watch or a new phone or a new computer or a new video game console or a new book. It's found within yourself, and it's generated from your heart center. So stop chasing motivation, the next best thing. Your motivation is never the problem. You can find motivation. It's your discipline that's holding you back. You're not taking the consistent steps on a day-to-day basis that's moving you toward healing and happiness. True self-care is something that is practiced over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You don't feel bad just in one day. Meaning you've talked to yourself in a way that has caused you pain throughout your entire life. And the pain that you're feeling now, the weight that you've gained now, is not something that happens overnight. It happens by doing it every single day after day after day after day after day after day. What I need to do now is, because I believe time does not heal all wounds, time can help, but what really helps is what you do in that time. So when you start to gain more discipline and start to focus on the things that make you move forward and feel better about yourself, you'll begin to experience a healthier quality of relationship with yourself. Number 6 is upgrading your library. People spend up to 9 hours a day on social media or TV and all of the screen devices. For this generation, your timeline is your library, and one of the biggest influences on what we think and feel is your library. Put better books into your library by following more people that educate, inspire, motivate, and less people that are negative, shallow, and petty. The best thing that you can do for yourself to protect yourself from the outside nonsense that feeds you negativity and corruption and hate and separation is to stop watching the news and start listening to better books, podcasts, educational experiences, inspiring authors and writers and speakers and coaches and people that motivate the negativity right out of you. Take care of yourself by protecting yourself and upgrading your library by spending more time around things that bring you joy rather than things that break you down. This is a self-care 101. And lastly, I want to talk about stop self-rejection and self-harm. So many people will try and stop you from reaching your potential. Don't allow yourself to be one of them. Many people will try to stop you from reaching your happiness. Don't allow yourself to be one of them. Scared you'll be rejected? Ask the question anyway. You'll feel more empowered. Scared of the unknown? We'll move toward that direction. On the other side of fear is freedom. It's happiness. Scared of other people's opinion? Be yourself anyway. It's time to stop self-rejecting your life away. You've got one life. And I hope that these 7 tips or ideas help you to understand the importance of self-care and what you can actually begin to do that has helped me improve how I feel about myself and how I think about myself. And the first thing I talked about was how you need to improve your mental diet. Number 2 is learn to let people down. Number 3, set clear boundaries and protect them. Number 4, replace Make replacements. Number 5, stop chasing motivation or the next best thing. Number 6, upgrade your library. And number 7, stop self-rejection. I hope that you found this podcast helpful. And if you need help walking back toward your happiness after heartbreak, honestly, I highly recommend you join my community of over 500 plus individuals in the past 2 months that have joined. It's called the Happy Heart Academy community, and you can find that community over at community.happyheartacademy.com. And my mission there is to really help you live more from your heart rather than your hurt, so that you can walk from heartbreak back to happiness. Because I believe at the end of the day that hurt people hurt people. But with that belief, I also believe that healed people can heal people. And if we want to live in a better quality world, we need to become better quality individuals, and we need to practice improving ourselves on a day-to-day basis in a community that's focused on happiness and your heart. Because when we live from a place from our heart rather than our hurt, our whole entire world will begin to change. Our relationships with ourselves, others, God, and everything in between will begin to change. And you can create that change by understanding what you can begin to do today by walking back toward happiness at the Happy Heart Academy. So I hope to see you there. Once again, the link is community.happyheartacademy.com.